At the end of Destiny 2's Red War campaign, a final cutscene shows the Traveler breaking free from its cage, sending a burst of light across our galaxy in the process. The final frames of the scene show the light passing through a void of darkness outside of our galaxy, which show a group of black pyramids, quickly activating and setting course for our solar system in response. This scene was what officially kicked off the greater narrative that Destiny 2 is building up. How our solar system, more specifically the Guardians of Earth's last city, were going to act once this massive fleet of pyramids arrived at our doorstep and confronted the Traveler. 5 years later, and the time had come for the Light and Dark saga to amp it up to the next level. Finally, the moment that all of us players had been hyped up for was going to play out before our very eyes. Well, not exactly. Following a recap of the story thus far, we cut to what seems like a Mexican standoff between the Traveler and the Black Fleet. Because sometimes it's better to sit and wait for the big ball in space to do something first after you traveled 900,000 or so light years to stop it from making a move. This gets rudely interrupted by a fire team of jump ships that are clearly outnumbered. We then see the big bad, the Witness, or as my friend likes to call him, Space Megamind, quickly disposing of the attackers with some fancy hand waves. Getting off to a rough start, all seems lost until this happens.
Shut the fuck up!
Damn, that could have really been useful when Dominus Gaul was invading the last city. Seemingly unaffected by the light beam, the Witness proceeds to approach the Traveler in a sequence that reminds me of all those hyperspace travel scenes in Star Wars. Not getting the memo that attacking this paracausal entity will lead to imminent death, more ships charge at the Witness directly, and with a twist of its finger and flick of its dick, they get split into pieces.
That was easy.
Some pyramids position themselves around the Traveler and get it to shut the fuck up. While finding out that Neptune is the 8th planet in our solar system, the Witness sends Tipster, Callus, and his army of space turtles to go say hello. Also, I'm pretty sure the Traveler did not consent to being touched. Osiris gets jealous and decides to chase after them. Our Guardian is tasked with babysitting the old guy, and for some reason that means we get placed on top of an enemy ship right as it's about to go into light speed. But thanks to plot armor, we aren't affected in any way and find our way on board. For some reason, Osiris is also on board the ship as well, despite being in his own ship like 2 minutes ago. You go into what seems like a room with enemies to fight, only to get psyched out by a wall of glass. After some more exploring, you get introduced to the Grim Reaper, who promptly disappears right as you cast your super. After wandering around a bit more and finally killing the Grim Reaper, you meet with Osiris and get no answer to what's happened to his ship. Taking an escape pod down to the surface, you find yourself in what seems to be a combination of cyberpunk and Star Wars. Apparently, the city looks like it's been under siege for some time, even though the Shadow Legion only just arrived. Ghost is shocked to find that a hidden city exists on Neptune despite being told that same information by Rasputin in Season of the Seraph.
This is Neptune? There's a whole city here. An entire civilization.
I have a final message for you as well. The Neptunian city in Osiris's visions is real.
There's a whole city here. An entire civilization.
Bruh.
You get introduced to the Silver Surfer and their grandpa, with the Silver Surfer becoming woke culture's latest deflection token to the reason why this expansion got bad reviews. The mission ends with you discovering some green strings, and congratulations! You now have taken the first steps to becoming Space Spider-Man. Callus emerges from a box with some fresh new drip looking like Russell from the movie Up. Once you finish introductions and discuss the Veil, an object that you never know what the fuck it actually is, you're sent on what's basically a target practice mission where you find out that the Witness can take control of Ghost. Now it's time to break into Callus's flagship. Seems a little early for that. This definitely will go over well. Besides some pyramid fun inside the ship, it turns out to be a trap. Who could have seen that coming? Luckily, Callus's daughter overcame her daddy issues and arrives just in time to allow you to escape. Osiris is pissed and scolds you because by now we would have found the veil if it wasn't for you meddling kids.
I am contemplating your most recent outburst with Strand to see if there are opportunities for improvement.
It was out of control. We did the best we could.
We need to do better!
Hey, I'm just doing what the game's telling me to do. We need to put a halt to this plot point, however, because cum robots are threatening the Cloud Ark, another plot element that gets little to no explanation in this campaign. After clearing out the cum bots, it's time to make an escape with your web-slinging abilities. But first you gotta kill not one, but 2 Reapers, because apparently these guys get very lonely. Now it's time to unlock your true spider senses, because with great power comes great responsibility. After some swinging and slinging, it's tanking time. Blasting your way through the city, you make it to a facility where an object trying to connect with the veil is located. And, like seemingly everything in this expansion, it too is barely given any explanation. Once you reach the final room and kill the boss, the plot decides you're too weak to continue any further. In order to show how high the stakes are, the Silver Surfer's grandpa self-destructs and destroys the device, and almost no emotional impact is felt afterwards. To emphasize how little impact this death had, Silver Surfer doesn't seem too bothered by the sacrifice either.
I think Rohan would have agreed, and so do I. Not because he's dead, and I automatically agree with a dead guy, although it's not like he's really in a position to argue, am I right?
Time for some more spidery swinging. Sadly, the fun and games can't last though because it's back to business. Why couldn't they land like they normally do in the rest of the campaign? What'd that building ever do to you? Cue up a montage that looks like something out of a sports movie, and the final mission begins. After swinging through the city, disabling Arsenal, and blowing things up, it's time for the final showdown. You make it deep inside a vault and come face to face with the Veil, which is some swirly, colory thing that even up to this point still hasn't been explained. Heading down to the arena below the Veil, you finally get to see Callus in the flesh. After years of mystery, you finally face against the illustrious Emperor Callus. What was a highly anticipated fight ends up being an easy burn. Psych! You get to fight him a second time. I guess he isn't too easy after oh, never mind. Once the fight is over, we get to the final cutscene. We stand in the aftermath of the fight under the Veil, and we conveniently forget the plot point that the Witness has the ability to completely take over our ghost, because right at that moment, the Witness uses our ghost to connect to the Veil, allowing itself to finger paint onto the Traveler and disappear. The campaign closes out with you heading back to the last city to debrief with the Vanguard, who are alarmingly calm despite the enemy seemingly winning. And that's that. Now, crude summary aside, I think it's fair to give you guys my actual thoughts on this expansion. The best way to describe it overall is mediocre. The campaign is honestly where a lot of the shortcomings of this expansion come from. The entire plot felt rushed and slapped together, and the missions themselves weren't particularly lengthy. A lot of the plot points also get little to no explanation, which is kind of frustrating, like how the Veil is this mysterious artifact we need to prevent the Witness from getting a hold of, but barely any explanation is given as to what it is. What annoyed me was that the characters kind of talk about the Veil as if they expect you to know what it is. The Cloud Ark is also another point that is brought up briefly, which I wish we could have gotten some more insight as to what it really was. The most explanation in the campaign that was given is that it's some kind of virtual reality construct that the people living on Neptune can upload their consciousness to. The campaign also seemed to focus too much on Strand, which isn't the worst thing considering the new subclass was one of the main draws for the expansion. However, it did feel like it was wedged in at times, and with the knowledge that Strand was originally set to release with Witch Queen, it does become more noticeable. The final boss fight against Callus, while fun, was way too easy, which was extremely disappointing considering how hyped up this character was. Callus was constantly appearing and disappearing throughout Destiny 2, even seemingly appearing as a boss in the game's first raid before revealing that it was an automaton. When we face off against Callus in Lightfall, he's supposed to be at the height of his power, and to burn through him with ease felt like an injustice both to his character and the players. The end of the campaign was also very unsatisfying, especially considering all the hype that was put in the promotion. The only impactful role the Witness had in the story was in the very beginning and very end cutscenes, leaving us with no answers and more questions by the time the campaign finished, which isn't what we should be left with this far into the story. Overall, I'm giving the campaign a 3 out of 10.
I'm a hunter, but I'm a silly hunter.
As far as its role in the overall narrative, sadly I can't say Lightfall does much in that respect other than nudge the story forward towards the Final Shape expansion. The main mission, that being finding the Veil before Callus does, feels more on par with what we'd see in a seasonal mission. Ending the story on a cliffhanger, while I think can be successful in some cases, wasn't how an expansion storyline should end. The story wasn't in any sense bad, it just under-delivered for an expansion is all, which is why I'm giving it a 4 out of 10.
Oh, you know, just kind of bumming around, playing a little Call of Duty 4, eating a lot of Pinkberry.
Oh, yeah, right, go to the Pinkberry. Jesus Christ, everybody!
The character development was a little more fleshed out, especially during the post-campaign missions. While I did find Nimbus's lack of emotional depth in the campaign a bit off-putting, the exotic machine gun quest gives them some more time to shine and gives us more insight on how their mentor's death affected them. Osiris was, well, Osiris. It was nice to see points where his relationship with his ghost Sagira was discussed and how her death has affected him. Keitel was great in all her scenes, and it's been cool to see her and the Imperial Cabal go from being our adversaries to being one of our closest allies over the past seasons. I felt like the confrontation between Keitel and her father Callus was a missed opportunity, as it would have been nice to see all the tension between the two play out before us. Character arcs were better than the campaign, but still felt a bit underdeveloped overall, so I'm giving it a 5 out of 10.
The power within. The power within. The power within. The power within. The power within!
Before y'all think this is just gonna be me being all doom and gloom, don't worry, because there were aspects of this expansion that were good. For example, the gameplay was one of the greatest experiences that I've had while playing Destiny in a while. I had a blast playing with the new subclass. Swinging around the skyscrapers and using my grapple to charge at enemies was super satisfying and changed up how I'm used to playing the game. Increasing the difficulty of the enemies in the Neomuna area was also a bonus, as it encouraged me to pay closer attention to the mods that I applied to my gear. I'd give the gameplay side of things a solid 9 out of 10.
What kind of place is this?
The environment that's featured in Lightfall is also a massive highlight. The city of Neomuna was amazing, with all the bright colors and graphic designs laid around the city, and served as a stark contrast to the dark and invasive presence of the Shadow Legion. Overall, I found the environment to be a very great shift away from the typical rustic and post-apocalyptic feel from other environments Bungie has released in the past, which is why I'd say with confidence that the environment is a 10 out of 10.
You're gonna have to stop with the kicking.
Oh, yeah? I think my scary, otherworldly, shadowy spirit friends might have something to say about that.
Last but not least, to finish off the score is the raid, which, while I haven't fully completed myself, looks amazing. I did watch the entire completion when Hard in the Paint got Worlds First, and from that perspective, the entire raid seemed really fleshed out in both environment and story. The story from the raid does provide more context on information we already had, which did add to the world building a bit. The raid gets a 9 out of 10 for me. Overall, Lightfall gets a Skeeter score of 67%. Yes, that's a score bar I completely made up on the spot. If you're looking to play something that has an engaging story that stands out, this isn't something I recommend you purchase. On the contrary, if you like exploring unique environments and engaging gameplay, or if you're like me and you've invested way too much time and money into the game at this point, Lightfall might be something you want to check out. I think that riding off the high that was the year of the Witch Queen left people with high expectations for what Lightfall had to offer, and it was disappointing to see them go from a strong narrative and world-building expansion in Witch Queen to a mediocre filler expansion with Lightfall. As stated earlier, there are aspects of this expansion that were done very well. And by no means do I hate Lightfall, I just felt like there was a lot of potential to do more with the story than what we were given. The season's new story seems promising. However, having a season outshine an expansion is concerning to say the least. I do look forward to seeing what will come to the game next, as Destiny is a franchise that I've been playing through since the release of The Taken King. But with that being said, my faith in Bungie's ability to tell stories has been significantly lowered. Light may not have fallen at the end of Lightfall, but my expectations in Bungie's storytelling certainly have.